Welcome to Letters Live. And please give it up for your hostess with the mostest, the fabulous mastermind of the upcoming Heels of Horror Halloween special on October 28th, and the most legendary Miss Congeniality in the world. Make some noise for Miss Nina West.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this incredible evening. I'm so excited to be here. You're probably going, wait, hold on. You're like, why is Nina West on Peppermint's Twitch page? Well, let me tell you, here's the answer. Because tonight we are celebrating Peppermint. It's overdue, and we're celebrating this brand new, incredible new album, A Girl Like Me, Letters to My Lovers. It's available now for download. Buy it now. If you can, stream it wherever you can stream music. I have listened to it all day, and I am in love. And it's such an honor for me to be here today to support my friend in this incredible, incredible new chapter of her career. So during today's show, we're going to have a lot of fun happening. There's going to be incredible celebrity guest appearances. There's even going to be live performances from our girl Peppermint. And at the end of the show, there will be this incredible live discussion on relationships between trans people and their partners. It's going to be a very eye-opening, educational, fun, musical journey, and it all starts with our friend Peppermint. Now, a couple house rules before we go any further. Make sure you comment on your thoughts and your questions as we go throughout this journey. We're going to be reading them and answering a few of our favorite questions later in the show. Also, remember, as I said earlier, you can download the album right now, and you can save it or stream it. It's free. What are you waiting for? That's the big question. What are you waiting for? If you really, really, really love it, pre-order the vinyl copy. And if you can, please tip by hitting the donate link in the chat. This show is free, but we would love to pay the people running it. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Rafe. It's not mandatory, but of course, if you can, that would be wonderful. And of course, it shows respect to everyone during this time when it's very crucial. Now, Peppermint's album, A Girl Like Me, Letters to My Lovers, is an intimate reflection of love and relationships centering around Pep's trans experience. And you'll see that theme carried throughout the show today. But before we get started, for those of you who might not know a lot about Peppermint from before her days on RuPaul's Drag Race, I'd like to take you back for a moment and talk a little bit about Peppermint's early career. To help me do that, I've asked some of her closest friends to share their thoughts and some of their more memorable experiences with Peppermint and her music. I am a big fan of Pep, and I'm really excited to be here. And I'm really excited to share this incredible video with you in the audience, but also with Peppermint, who is truly an incredible joy and one of the most talented people I know. So please help me welcome Laverne Cox, Bob the Drag Queen, Sherry Vine, Caswell, Johnny McGovern, Michael Musto, Corey Tutt, and Adam Joseph. DJ, take it away.
Get up for Peppermint!
Peppermint, Peppermint, Peppermint.
I don't remember the exact moment Peppermint and I met, but it had to have been about 20 years ago, and it was probably at Lit's restaurant in New York City, and it was probably on a Tuesday night for karaoke.
I met Peppermint years ago.
I first met Peppermint a long time ago.
Back in the day, sweetie, back on the Lower East Side of New York City.
I met her sometime in the aughts. In fact, I've known her so long. I think my first review of her was in hieroglyphics.
I know that we met like in the 90s.
I was going down to Barracuda and I looked up online drag competitions. And there's a picture of me, the first night I ever met Peppermint. It was my first night competing or performing in a New York City gay bar ever. And she's the first drag queen to meet Hidden with a Whip, like my initial drag persona.
We have done so much together. We have literally performed all over the world together.
My favorite memory of Peppermint must be at the Ritz We threw Thursday party there together, a hip hop party called Do the Right Thing.
Peppermint comes out for her performance with like an army of dancers and confetti cannons and smoke machines and wind machines and fabric blowing all over the place, and gave you a production value show. And I was like, oh, okay, the bar has been raised, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, it was mind-blowing. It was a game changer.
I immediately think about that moment on Drag Race when she disclosed that she's indeed a beautiful transgender woman, and how historic that was for that television show, how necessary it was for her to take up space in that way at that time.
To see someone live in their truth and represent for so many other people, and to be visible, to be seen, to be out there showing people that living your dream is possible. As an out artist, I think that the more visibility we can have, the better. So it's been great to see her live her truth and inspire other people while doing it. There's so many Peppermint songs that I love. I mean, one of my favorites that stands out in my mind is, I think, Serving It Up.
Serving It Up.
Serving It Up, she's in this white blazer. In this video, she's like on the sub, like there's a train, and she's on a stoop. And I had not seen a drag queen, with the exception of RuPaul, have a music video.
So we got up into a little tiny apartment on the Lower East Side with Adam Joseph, where I sat on the bed next to Peppermint. It was a very skinny room, and Adam was on the computer. And we just started talking to Peppermint about what she was like and what she wanted her drag to be and what her pop star version of herself would be. And we wrote the song Serving It Up.
Seeing her do Serving It Up at the HX Awards one year, it was like a sassy kind of, I'm a wait server, but maybe a little bit like I'm a sex worker kind of number. It was very Donna Summer for a new age, and very sexy and fun, and I loved it musically as well.
Should be a crime. Dropping jewels all over the place. I got the boys in my face. I said, give me a break, sugar. Do my pep in the bubble bath. Silky chocolate candy ass. Shimmer, shine, never trash. I keep it cute, trash built to last. Face beat, shoes hot. Cocoa butter on my thighs. Check the mirror one more time. This Peppermint's going out tonight. I do look good. I'm serving it up, I'm getting down. I'm serving it up, gonna hit the town. I'm shaking it round, ain't never, never, never gonna get me down. I'm serving it up, that's what I do. I'm serving it up, right here for you. Getting into the groove, all my party people show me how you move. You like that? I'll give you some more.
Hey! Don't pay to look pretty. Get back to work.
I'm a bad name dinner like Pamela Greer. We got those white boys checking on my rear. Don't be scared, baby, come here. I'm your Peppermint gummy bear. Boy, you got a sweet tooth, but I'm spicy. Like Michelle, they call me nicey. If you're cute, I might get feisty. Whatever you do, baby, don't be shysty. Show begins when I walk through the door. All those fellas start to roar. They so nasty, I'm so classy. Hell, girl, shake my assy. I'm serving it up, I'm getting down. I'm serving it up, gonna hit the town. I'm shaking it round, ain't never, never, never gonna get me down. I'm serving it up, that's what I do. I'm serving it up, right here for you. Getting into the groove, all my party people show me how you move.
How'd I get tricked into rapping on this track? Kidnapped in Iraq with a bomb in your backpack. Good luck, I'm past that, I'm up in the fast track. You can't snap a thong when it's stuck in your ass crack. I'm abstract like a pink Cadillac. Underwater with the clown and a flip and a flapjack. I got the beats that make the walls crack. When I spit my rhymes drop like my ball sack. I get a call back for every audition. If you stop and listen, impossible mission. All intermission, change your transmission. It's bald ambition with a sizzling slice. I'm white like rice, I'm right like the price. Out of sight like lights, put your head in a vice. And for those of you who don't think that I speak nice, you can kiss
yes, we are officially serving it up right now. What an incredible video to introduce this entire evening. And now I'm thrilled to formally introduce Peppermint. Peppermint, how are you?
Hey, Mama. Hello, hello. I'm so good. I'm so nervous. I'm so happy that you are here with me. And my heart is like racing.
Listen, I've got to be honest with you. I have listened to this album all day, and you have nothing to be nervous about. This is a celebration because this album, and as we're going to celebrate tonight, is so important. It's so smart. It's so sexy, and it's a voice that needs to be celebrated, and that's your voice. So I'm thrilled to be here to celebrate you tonight.
Thank you so much, girl. Yeah, it was a long time coming, and at first I was not quite sure if I should even put it out. You know, we have so much going on right now, the pandemic obviously being a major factor in 2020, and I just was, at first I was thinking maybe we won't put this out, maybe it won't be the right kind of feeling, or maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe we should wait until next year, but it does feel like the right time.
Well, can we talk about that for a second? Because I think the timing is right as we go right into an election, and these things that we're talking about here are so important, and amplifying these voices, specifically trans voices and their stories, your story, how important that is right now, as we'll get into throughout the evening. But I think I'm thrilled that you have chosen right now to release it, because I think it needs to be heard right now.
Thank you. I mean, girl, we were going to go on a tour. I was going to go on tour earlier in the year, like before anything was planned.
Yeah.
We had a tour planned. We had a thing opening in New York, and then we were going to tour Europe, and our first show in Europe was going to be in London. And I was so excited for that, so stoked. We were going to release this in May, and then obviously things got pushed way back, canceled, reinstated, canceled. And I was like, I ain't shooting no daggone, you know, music video on Zoom.
Right.
And, you know, so here we are. It's Twitch, not Zoom. Thank you very much.
Elevated. Well, let's get into it, because we are here to celebrate and talk about this new album and the inspiration behind it, and even get to hear you perform it, which is such an honest treat. I'm really, really, really excited. So we have a little featurette documenting your process recording this album that I'd love to share with everyone right now.
The inspiration to do any of the work on this album, this project, comes from a breakup. I was in love, and I found a relationship that I thought would last, and I was really happy to be in it. And I think it was one of those relationships that every once in a while you're in a relationship that just feels very transformative in some way. Then, as good as that was, the breakup was also as tough for me. And so I was really affected by that. It was while I was on Broadway. My senses were at their height. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of took it all in. And I had to kind of, I think, do a little healing and a lot of thinking and a lot of talking with friends. Mm-hmm. And then I said, you know what? It's a good time for me to work on some material and like write some stuff down. I wanted to just get my thoughts and feelings out on paper. Everyone understands love and pain, so that's on the album. But then also what's there is something for people who are in the queer community and trans women of color specifically. There's just so much going on and so many moments, at least that I can remember back in my life, that just we weren't represented and that I was absent from the story. Whether it's a love story or any kind of story, we've been absent from so many of those stories, and I really want to have something that feels like it's an offering that people can be like, okay, I know what this is. I can see myself in this. It's like in this situation, it's like the drivers have all the control,
I see.
And it's like they keep canceling you, but you're trying to get an Uber. That's what it's like.
Can you leave star ratings for these individuals?
No.
Oh, okay.
You have no voice.
Yeah. Huh. No, that's not good. That's not good at all.
It's like asking the Uber drivers, can I please match with you? And then them being like, nah.
Can you?
Or
shared ride.
Or all of you can share rides. Or they all accept you. They all say yes, you can. And when you go to the car, they speed away.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
That's what these dating apps are like.
Huh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Are you gonna send your ex this album? I've
never worked on anything like this, so personal. a trans woman. I'm a woman creating this music about this man who this was not an abusive relationship, but there are some abuses that trans women endure. And I had to go to some of those places when recording this. I'm also thinking about, like, do I sound like a woman? Are people going to be like, oh, who's this man singing some kind of way?
Right.
Like, that's a thought that can cross through my brain. And so there's so many things that can bring insecurity into this kind of atmosphere that just I felt protected from. The thing that really allowed it to kind of incubate and flourish and do what it needed to do was working here with Electropoint.
That's very kind of you. I don't think I like what I'm doing with you, but I think it's because of the place it's coming from is really the reason.
I feel really comfortable working with you, and
thank you.
And I don't feel just comfortable working with you. I feel safe. There's another song that I'm writing about that has saved me, that has helped get me to this moment. And so the relationships that I've called on to support me in my life, I'm also kind of honoring in a way. Everything I've always done has been me, for sure. But I think this is the most me that I've ever been on an album without ever having to worry about really what anyone's gonna think. I think one of the things that's important for me is to try to come across as true on this album as possible, and I think we're achieving that.
As you say, Peppermint, this is the most you that you have ever felt like you've been on an album, and you pepper this album with these diary entries, which are really personal and introduce us to these songs. And here we have our first song that you're going to give us this evening, which is really hot and really sexy and really wonderful. And you're about to perform Best Sex. Can you tell us a little bit about this song?
Yeah, I always thought that I was kind of, cute and sassy, a little bit of sex appeal, but I really wanted to go in because, first of all, everybody loves sex. Sex sells. So I hope everybody's, make sure your parents are monitoring the show. And we, decided not to censor that part out. I think one thing that can get censored out, one thing that's it's either way too prevalent to one extreme is really over-sexualizing queer bodies, but trans bodies in particular. People immediately go towards talking about their private parts or what they have under here or there. And that's obviously not appropriate, and it's way too personal. But by the same token, when we're celebrating joy, trans people are usually not included in that. When we're talking about sexuality, when we're talking about love, we're talking about all these things, trans folks are not usually included in that. And so I really wanted to give a sexy presentation and talk about sexual relationships between consenting adults that isn't like too raunchy, pretty much the same as any other video. I mean, like, there's lots of videos going on. And so all these folks have, we seen little booty and little, everything. So that's okay. We did get flagged on YouTube. So I guess that's good.
That's a win.
But a lot of times these relationships between trans folks and their partners end up being, or even queer people in general, a lot of them come after having to sort through a whole bunch of, casual encounters, to say it, in a PC way. And so I'm certainly not immune to that. And there's lots of players out there that are looking to kind of, jump into the bed with somebody, but not really trying to give anything more. And so there's lots of people who you encounter when you're alone late at night who have no redeeming qualities except for one, their best sex.
Well, give it to us. Give us your best sex right now.
Absolutely. Here we go. You always keep me waiting.
never come on time. Text me every minute, and then you don't reply. And you ain't got no money. And you ain't got no play. Where we gonna go? You're always undercover. All torso and no face. Y'all know what album I'm talking about. And you don't want nobody seeing me with you. You ain't got no time for me until you do. Always lying, why can't you just tell the truth? There's only one reason that I fucks with you. You got the best sex. Oh boy, you got the best sex. As for the rest, next. But boy, you got the best sex. Can't make conversation. All your talk is cheap. About 7 cents. Maybe 8. I rent at my girlfriend's. They told me just last week, LaRonda and Shaquanda said you try to talk to them, you slid in their DMs. You never keep a promise. You're always lying through your teeth. And then you never know your status. But then you ask me if I'm clean. What is this? And you don't want nobody seeing me with you. You ain't got no time for me until you do. You never give me notice when you're swinging through. You ain't got too much, but I know this much is true. You got the best sex. Ooh boy, you got the best sex. As for the rest, next. But boy, you got the best sex. And I hate that it's all that I know, but I love how you come and you go. Now let me get the door so you can hit the road. They're only good for one thing, boy. You got the best sex. Ooh, boy, you got the best sex. As for the rest, next. You just hit the road with all that. But boy, you got the best sex. Oh.
That is best sex. That is what I love. This is why I love this album, and I'm going to talk about it all night. But there's a lot of reclaiming happening with this album, and you using your voice to reclaim. I think your sexuality and the power of your sexuality, and I just think it's really, really, really important. And as we go through the album, there's one moment we'll talk about later, but there's one particular song that I really love. What you're doing, and I'm just this whole thing is such a great celebration. Up next, you have another incredible track. If you could tell us a little bit more about Chosen One.
Yeah,
Chosen One really is, I think it's really that moment where you realize, okay, this is a relationship.
Mhm.
And I think the only thing better than having that boo to like snuggle up with and that they're going to come over and they're like dependable and all those things. I think the only thing better than that is knowing that they are claiming you in public. Do you know what I mean? Like being publicly claimed. I think that's really special. And so it's also really rare. It's rare for me. I think a lot of finding someone to spend time with, has been okay. I've had relationships before, but the next frontier is being able to have someone who doesn't feel like they're persecuted because of who they love or dating a trans person. I think hearing folks talk about their trans partners is just so rare. We don't really hear about it so much. And so there's no real inspiration for the people who are the partners to do it. They're not trying to introduce us to their friends and family. They're not trying to, some of them are happy to be in our bed, but won't hold our hands in public. And I don't think it's certainly not just trans people that experience that. I think queer people can experience that because the closet is a factor for, I think, all queer people. And then anyone, there's lots of people, there's lots of reasons why you may sense that your partner doesn't feel proud of you. But I think ultimately that's the goal, is we want our partner to feel proud of us.
Yeah, one of my favorite lyrics on the album is in this song where the singer, the person you're singing about, grabs your hand tighter, and it's just powerful and it transcends. Please sing this song for us. This is Chosen One with Pep.
You got it. Here we go. Feel these hands, it's cold in here. My heart's not working the way it should. But just one glance is like a fire, and words unspoken or understood. It's scaring me away. When I pull you closer, feel like I can say anything to you. I never felt like the chosen one, the chosen one, the chosen one. Now I'm that girl, you turn my world upside down. How'd you do it? How'd you get here? With no shame, claim me for the world to see. You make me feel like the chosen one. The good time girl. The stage lights won't keep you warm at night. You brought me into your world. Broke your silence and shared my light. Ain't scaring you away. When I pull you closer, feel like I can say anything to you. I never felt like the chosen one. Oh, the chosen one. Girl, you took my world upside down. I do what you do to me. You claim me for the world to see. You make me feel like the chosen one. I said the chosen one.
Whoa, whoa, chosen one. Whoa, whoa, chosen one. You make me feel like the chosen one, the chosen one, the chosen one. Now I'm that girl, you turn my world upside down.
That is chosen one. You know, one of our friends in the chat said the vulnerability in this stream is chef's kiss. It's true.
Thank you.
It's true. That's what this album is. Really, really brave. And as a giant music fan, I liken this to your album. Really reminds me of a Janet release. Like where it's these stories. She tells us these stories. Right, as a big Janet Jackson fan, she tells us these stories on her album, and then she connects it with these really powerful songs that further that story. And I'm excited for everyone to hear this because that's what you're doing. You're being supremely vulnerable with these diary entries, and then you're taking it even further with these songs. I just think I think you've arrived in a greater moment. You've always been sickening, but you have arrived in a different chapter of this new light of pep that's really incredible to see. So congratulations. I'm just on honor and awe of you and honored to be here. Fantastic.
I love you. Thank you for that, girl.
I love
Yeah, it's actually the inspiration. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't heavily inspired by Janet Jackson, for real.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's one of my favorite artists, and so that is an honor to even be compared.
Do you think there's any? I can't think of any other trans artist who is being so vulnerable with the experience, and musically even to allow this to come into our homes and our heads and our ears to hear this and be exposed to this in this way. I just think you're really, really breaking a barrier that's desperately needed.
Thank you. I don't know. It's tough to say. Part of it is because, maybe there's trans folks and queer folks who haven't felt like they've had the inspiration before, to put something like this out there that people will accept. And then even if there are or were, there's not a lot of audiences that are used to hearing about these experiences in a way that feels normal.
Yeah.
And I'd say, quote, normal. I think the music industry certainly isn't like, we need a trans artist. Like, they're just not, And I think that's a shame. They're barely there with gay folks. I mean, I think there's some gay artists who are legendary and who are, I don't mean I don't mean people who are just started their music career in the past few years. I mean, like, the legends, the people, there's tons of queer legends who have been making music, and none of them have been singing about their queer experience. Mm-hmm. It's always coded, and so hopefully that's going to change.
That's why this is so powerful. It is so powerful to listen to this and know the context of the story and be able to I think come to the table with a willingness to understand it. And that's why friends and folks at home who are watching, that's why it's really important that you support Peppermint in this effort. Buy the album, buy the vinyl, stream the album. Get these streams up, because then it encourages more artists to release their music and tell these stories. Peppermint's leading the way, and we can only do our best by supporting Pep. Which leads to my favorite track on the album, which is the title track. And I am really excited to hear some backstory behind the track "Girl Like Me." So tell me a little bit about this song.
Well, I think "A Girl Like Me" is it really is the love song that I always wanted to hear as a little young lady. Exactly as you said, having the context there, hearing someone who's trans with how I present and how I sound I think would have been so life-saving for me. I mean, obviously I'm very grateful to be alive. But I say that in the sense that, right now there's 33 that we know transgender people have been murdered. And most of those people have
been murdered at the hands of their lovers. It's intimate partner violence, their boyfriends or lovers. And so to have a love song, it's my love song to the trans community, about the trans community. And also I'm hopeful that other people who aren't trans will be able to maybe consider like that trans people are just as worthy of love as everyone else.
And
so that's it.
It's all of that, and that's a lot. So singing the title track of her new album, here's Peppermint with A Girl Like Me.
Technical difficulty?
It happens. It's a stream. This happens. As Pep gets ready, you can download and stream this album right now on all fine music retailers. And a huge shout out to PEG Records for helping produce this incredible album and letting us all hear it. Here's Peppermint with A Girl Like Me.
A girl like me can light up any party and hold the crowd in her hands. A girl like me can turn heads on the runway and travel off to distant lands. A girl like me knows how to make her money. She's just as smart as she is cute. She's strong and doesn't take it from nobody. A girl like me knows how to live her truth. A girl like me can dream, but sometimes that's all that she can do. To belong, to be loved in the arms of someone, that's all I wanna be. I just need to be heard, to be seen. Do you know what I mean? Would it hurt to try and see if you could love a girl like me? A girl like me isn't always seen as equal, and sometimes not one at all. A girl like me can't give a man a baby, and when trouble comes, she's first to take the fall. And girls like me are scared and angry, but we always find a way to smile. To belong, to be loved in the arms of someone, that's all I wanna be. I just need to be heard, to be seen. Do you know what I mean? Would it hurt to try and see if you could love a girl like me? A girl who's fighting for a life. A girl who can't go home at night.
the girl who strives for good, but ends up so misunderstood. Girl who needs love to call her own. To belong, to be loved in the arms of someone. It's all I wanna be. I just need to be heard, to be seen. Do you know what I mean? Would it hurt to try and see if you could love a girl like me?
That is A Girl Like Me, and that is Peppermint and the title track to this brand new album. What does it feel like? I have to know, what's it feel like to sing that song and release it to the world? And because it does feel like such a battle cry and an anthem.
Feels good. Yeah, this is the one song on this album that I don't really, I mean, everything I said before that we sang the song is true, but I don't really care what people think about it, because it's just the truth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just the truth. And so I shout out to my management and my record label, PEG Records. We were going back and forth and with friends about which songs to put on this album, which songs to be like, oh, maybe not. There's a few that didn't make it on. And this was one of the ones that a few people at first glance were like, you know what, this song, it doesn't really, it's like, it's a ballad, you know, it doesn't necessarily jump out at you. And so you could stand to not have an album. And I really was adamant and fought for it, because at first glance, it's just like probably just a very sweet ballad. But really, I wanted those lyrics to tell the truth. And so obviously, after having that conversation with my record label, they're like 100%. So they're in full support. I should just say that. But it's the heart of the album. It's the heart. I feel like I just took my heart and just put it directly on an MP3. Is that weird?
But it tells such an important story, and it's just so beautiful, and really it does leave me speechless. And it sets up our next track on the album, which is a cover, the only cover on the album, but I think also the most it's one of the most powerful covers I've ever heard, because when you hear Peppermint sing it, it has a completely different meaning. And I think the pain and the sorrow and near regret you almost hear in your voice. And can you talk about why you chose Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow to be on this album?
Yeah. I've always loved the song. It's the first time I ever heard it was the pop song. The Shirelles originally recorded it. Obviously, Carole King wrote it. And I love the song. I mean, it's a hit. It doesn't matter what I think. It's a hit. But when I was going through this writing the album and putting everything together with Corey Tutt and Adam Joseph, my co-writers and producers of the album, we needed a song that was kind of the flip side to Best Sex. Like we have this song, Best Sex, that talks about that sort of like one night stand moment, that first night of great sex and connection. And then after the sex, you're lying in bed and, you know I'm not the only person to be thinking like, well, what's going to happen in the morning? Are they just going to be like, surprise, I'm married, or like whatever, like, oh, bye, like you don't know what's happening. And I've heard it all, trust me. And so, or like, go, like, what? Who are you? Like we've seen that in movies. And so I think a lot of us have asked those questions, like, where's this going to go? And so I think this song really puts that, brings that to life so perfectly. And I think for queer people, since our
relationships haven't always been like supported across the board, like legally, socially, they haven't. And so those relationships end up, I think, suffering a little bit. And so I think lots of people have laid in bed and been like, what's going to happen tomorrow? And so that's why I decided. And I didn't want to just like make a copy of it. I didn't want to just like, try to rewrite it. You can't remake something that's so beautifully written. So I said, let's just cover it. So we got the rights and we covered it.
I think it's, when I got to this track on the album, I think it's such a brilliant choice because you really do change the entire meaning of the song, and the voice, not the singing, but the voice of the storyteller really does become very different, and it's really incredibly beautiful to hear. So here is Peppermint with the Carole King classic, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow?
Tonight you're mine completely. You give your love so sweet. Tonight the light of love is in your eyes. But will you love me tomorrow? Is this a lasting treasure or just a moment pleasure? And I believe magic in your sound. Will you still love me tomorrow? Tonight with words unspoken, you say that I'm the only one. But will the spell be broken when the night meets the morning sun? Well, I'd like to know if your love is a love I can be sure of. So tell me now, and I won't ask again. Will you still love
Friends, this is Peppermint, and that is Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow off of her new album, A Girl Like Me. This is available now. You should get it now. Stream it now. The vinyl's available for sale right now. We have one more song before we go and into our next portion of the show, which is a beautiful, beautiful duet that is just remarkable. If you could tell us a little bit about Every Morning.
Yeah, Every Morning is kind of the answer to Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? You know, I imagine, I mean, it seems pretty obvious that the lyrics to Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow are kind of, I imagine it's taking place at night. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're going to, you know, talk about what's going to happen in the morning. And so the last song on the EP, I wanted to show sort of the beauty in the actual relationship, because I think we hear a lot about like the search for love and what that is like. But I wanted to kind of show this, an example of a healthy relationship between a trans person and their partner that just is a normal relationship. Yes, they fight. They fight about who's going to put the toothpaste cap back on and if the toilet seat's up and things like that. Just normal, everyday stuff. And so that's what Every Morning is about. Sort of the, it's sort of the everyday, you know, here we are in our relationship and we're making it work. And so I decided to have a guest feature on this because I thought it would be cool to kind of make this two people singing back and forth to each other. So it's a duet with one of my favorite people and a really good friend, activist, model, Laith Ashley, he's just brilliant. And if you don't know him, check him out. Just Google Laith Ashley and you'll find him, folks. And so we decided to sing this. Now, we couldn't bring him here live for the show, so we decided to record it together. And we filmed it earlier, and we have it. For your pleasure.
Right
so
now.
Let's watch it. Yeah.
Lying there in the morning light, watching as he sleeps in his arms, soft and warm. She never wants to leave. If she could freeze this moment, realize the fantasy, she'd give up all the nights before just to have him there. Every morning, when she opens up her eyes,
in her eyes, something more than he's ever seen. Her future wife, he's open wide to the possibilities. Nervous as he pours the coffee with so much to say. Can he grow to be the man he knows that he could be? Every morning, when she opens up her eyes. Every morning, like the first morning light.
is every morning, Peppermint featuring Laith Ashley. Now, Pep, tell us where we can get the album right now and tell us about this vinyl that we all need to get our hands on.
Y'all can get the album right now on, basically just go to my social media. You can hit the link in my bio. I think we'll try to drop the link in the chat here. And you can go to my social media, but it's obviously you can stream it anywhere you stream your music. iTunes, Apple Music, YouTube Music, which is new that I'm on YouTube Music. Hey, Spotify, all that jazz. And then for the people who really are excited about it, you can pre-order now your very own collector's edition, limited edition copy of the vinyl, which will have something very special. And it's really cool because the wax, the vinyl of the actual album is going to be white. I don't know why I think that's so great. I just love it. And so, yeah, that's going to go. Those are going to ship just in time for the holidays. But we're only printing 200 of those. So first come, first serve. Yeah. And the lyric video for the song "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow" goes live right after the show on my YouTube. On my YouTubes.
I'm ready for it. I'm so ready for it. I am ready for it. I'm in love with this new EP. I'm in love with you, and I'm in love with what we're doing tonight, and with what we're celebrating with you tonight, which is now a conversation, not just about this album, but also about relationships and the experience of having relationships between trans people and their partners. So it's a really important conversation, and we want to engage in it right now. So joining us today, if you can, please welcome Levi Smith, who is a very incredible, wonderful, amazing human. It says average human in his description. I will not take that average human. I will say incredible and wonderful. But he's also a pansexual adult performer and remarkable, and here tonight to talk with me and Pat. Pat, take it away.
Hi, Levi. Okay, so Levi is, for those of you may not know him yet, but you will see him because he stars in not only the Best Sex music video with me, but also every single music video on this album because he plays my boyfriend in the videos. It's actually a film. We created a short film that we're going to release later on this year. But the reason why I wanted to bring you here, Levi, I think I told you a little bit about this. We obviously talked about it beforehand. Oh, yeah. But I have a girlfriend who is a singer and a fabulous performer, so gorgeous and lovely. And she was doing a music video where it was going to be her and her love interest. You know, music videos have love interests. And it was just them, like, you know, I think holding hands and walking through the street or whatever. And everything was great. It was a great video. Apparently everything went well. The shoot was lovely that day. And then later on, right before they had the video edited, I think they sent it to him. And right before they were going to release the video, this co-star said he wanted to be pulled out of the music video because he actually didn't feel comfortable being in a video with a trans woman. Maybe he thought it would be damaging to his career or whatever the reason. And I was like, honey, well, what they ended up doing, by the way, is they didn't pull him out, but they kept him in and just put a big censored block on his face in the whole video, which is kind of crazy, but it also really does speak to, I think, the sort of shame and secrecy that really just kind of seeps in to a lot of the relationships with trans people and their partners. And so I wanted to cast you. I very humbly and asked you if you would be in my video because I wanted someone who just had no hangups about any of that stuff. And I really do. I think it's rare, for sure. It definitely is rare. Like socially, it's rare. And so that's why I wanted to have you in the music video. So we talked about that. I'm not sure if I told you about that, but that was the main thing. I was like, I need somebody who's like gonna not want to like be taken out of the video or we have to put a blur across his face. And so I'm so grateful that we are not gonna have to blur your face, Levi.
But
in this video.
like such a commentary, even about, like you said, with the censor over the guy's face, that's like, it's such a message of how a lot of, I think that like queer relationships with cisgendered folks go. And it's super unfortunate. And, as a cis male that presents as straight most of the time, a lot of people, I get included in a lot of those conversations about, relationships with trans people or what it's like to hook up with trans persons. And I think before I had really come out, and I was still very locked into my former mindset, because like I grew up in kind of rural Nevada. It's like very small towny. And I grew up in like a very toxic masculinity based social circle. And there's another adult performer actually that ended up going into he performs on the gay side of the industry. And when he did that, I remember I had friends that disowned it. And then to me, I was like, I'm going to disown you guys. So that was kind of the awakening for me that, like, what does friendship mean to these people? What do relationships mean to people? And as I started to expand my culture, my, traveling more and going places and meeting new people, trans women are women. And, biological sex isn't gender. And as somebody who presents the way that I do, and I, have social circles that are so toxic masculinity fueled and very straight, it's great to be able to have conversations with guys about it. Like, especially working predominantly on the trans side of the adult industry. I had a coworker once come up to me at my vanilla job and was like, "Hey man, I saw you on Pornhub." And I was like, "Man, that's really cool. Like, so you like watching trans films?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, all of my videos on Pornhub are with trans performers." And he was like, "Man, like, don't. And I'm like, "Listen, we got to have a conversation about how this works." And that was about a year ago. And today, every time I come into work and I'm wearing my Black Trans Lives Matter shirt and stuff like that, he's like, "I love that shirt, man. I have to get one." So I think it's for us, like the cis, white, straight presenting males, it's important for us to go out there and really like show that there's nothing to be afraid of. There should be no social disparaging of relationships, be it, a straight, gay, any kind of relationship that you want to have. Love is love. And I think that like out there preaching that story is massively important to ending the kind of hate and, unfortunate circumstances that really create the type of relationships that you outline in these videos. I
think it's what you said is 100%. Like, that is it. We need for cis men who are straight identified to feel comfortable. What do you think it's going to take? Because I can talk about it all day. Laverne Cox can be on a million Time magazines. We can be there all day marching in the streets, but I don't know if it makes an impact. I mean, it certainly makes an impact for our community. We're not going to stop marching, but I do believe it's going to take some high-profile guy to do it. Yeah. Do you think that's what it'll take? Or?
Yeah, I mean, if you look back to like the 90s, was it like Hugh Grant or Eddie Murphy or one of those guys that got arrested and they had solicited a trans sex worker, and it was really like kind of vilified in the news. And I think that what it's going to take is for some high status Hollywood type, business tycoon type to come out and say, "This is my partner." this is not out of the norm. This is a standard relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've been waiting for it. And instead, what we hear is like all of these sort of like you said, gay shamed. It's almost like they get gay shamed if they, are caught with a trans person. And it's unfortunate.
Just such a massive lack of understanding about gender in general. And, you and I had talked a little bit on set. I have only recently come out to my parents as pansexual. And, my stepdad, who was relatively homophobic when he had started seeing my mom, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, has now come so far down the line, and he was ecstatic, cried, was like, I'm so proud of you, sent me the pan flag the next day and was like, this is so cool. Like, I didn't know that this was a thing. Thank you so much for showing me. And then, I sent him some stills of us from The Best Sex. And he was just like, whoa, you look like a movie star. She's absolutely gorgeous. This is great. I've been listening to her music on Apple. And I think that what it takes is every single person that really wants to make a difference, or even just stands by the LGBTQ community, to have those conversations with their parents or with the people that can't change because they're from a different generation. Like, everybody can understand if you put it to them in the right words. And
I agree.
I think that has to be well articulated and free of, chaotic conversation. You have to sit down and really let people know that it matters to you. I think that it's a lot harder to hate something when somebody shows you how close to home it hits.
100. Well, I'm curious, like what other people's reactions have been after you having come out or talked to them about, who you've worked with or had relations with. Like just wearing the Black Trans Lives Matter shirt, I think it clearly is an act of, it's in some circles it is revolutionary. In my house, that's the uniform, but in some circles it's revolutionary. And so, what have you had any negative reactions personally?
I get some stares at the grocery stores, things like that. When I first entered the industry, there were people that were on the mainstream side that were like, you don't want to shoot trans films. You won't get hired on the straight side. And that was easily disproven. And now it's like, between the trans segments and the bi segments and the heavily tattooed segments, it's like the three that I fall into are the most heavily searched on, all of the search engine sites. So at the end of the day, while it kind of is, I don't know if I can swear on here, it's kind of sucky. Money talks, man. The industry is changing now to accommodate those segments because they've realized that they've missed out on a massive part of the industry. But with that, there comes a responsibility of not fetishizing trans women, trans men. And I think that the lines are still very blurred there. And I would love to see, a lot of the language and slang terms eliminated, even from just categories on the search engines. Because I think it promotes people that are like, no, I love that type of film, but they use those terms and you're like, man, that's still derogatory.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why it was important for me to be able to show like a full, as much as we could, a full like kind of scope of a healthy relationship. Like it has sex and the sex is popping in this film, y'all. And then also, like the sweet, the tenderness, the love, I just think it's wonderful. I think you are absolutely amazing. And I wanted to bring you on here to engage in this conversation and let people know why, you know, and I didn't really talk about it that much. It was in the little piece that we showed earlier, that the inspiration behind this album is a relationship that I was in over a year ago, and we broke up. But it was honestly oh my gosh, it was a great relationship, and so I wanted to be able to get some folks on and talk together about. We always hear trans women talking, and it's nice to hear cis men talking about this in this context. And we have another guest who just joined us, Lex Newman, activist and somebody that I'm just getting to know, whose videos I have been watching. You school your followers and the public, and I'm really happy to introduce you as well to them. Surprise! Lex just got off of an airplane, and so I'm so happy that he's here. Let's welcome Lex. Hi, Lex.
Hello, can you hear me? Is this sound working fine?
Yeah.
This thing is on. Yeah. So we were just talking about. We were just talking about the lack of sort of examples of cis men and their, specifically in the context of this conversation, cis men and their trans partners or trans women partners. And we were just mentioning that it probably will take a really high profile person to sort of introduce us to their partner and like not give a damn. Yeah. And Levi here is he's an adult performer, and so his sort of experience with this is particular because a lot of his experiences, I imagine, have been with coworkers in sort of professional settings. So it's very public, but and I think that's what's rare is like being able to get these relationships to be public, and we need to be able to show like healthy relationships publicly. So welcome. I just want to ask you, like, what do you think about that?
What do I think about that? I think that's absolutely right. I think that the most, the quickest and most effective way would be for some high profile person, obviously, to come out and say, hey, look, this is the person that I love. This is the person that I'm with. Or, you know, at least this is the person that I'm dating, and I'm open to allowing for people to see that. I think that would obviously be pretty effective as far as changing people's minds overall. But I think that the more realistic way, well, not to say that that's unrealistic, because we all know that there's so many guys that are high profile that could do that, and we're just kind of waiting to see who's going to be that person that actually steps up and, you know, steps into authenticity. But I think that what I am seeing and what I'm more of a part of is just creating brotherhood and creating places where men who are not particularly high profile in the sense of fame, but, you know, just creating communities where these guys can come together and have these conversations, or at least to create spaces where they're able to see themselves reflected, so that there can be conversations that bubble from sort of a grassroots level up as opposed to from the top down. Now, I think that it's going to require a little bit of both of those for it to be like an actual change in society. And I think that more conversations amongst, you know, common folk, amongst other men in these kinds of groups will eventually make somebody who is in a high profile position feel a little bit more safe, a little bit more okay, a little bit more like, okay, this is a conversation that is happening now. Maybe this is something that I can actually step into, as opposed to feeling like I'm going to, and this is what I feel like a lot of people feel, they're going to basically bet their celebrity to start a conversation, as opposed to stepping into a conversation that's already happening and sort of, you know, being the face of it, if you will. So I think it's going to take a little bit of both on both sides. And I don't think that that's very far off, to be honest. But, you know, we're doing what we can in the spaces that we have. I know that I am. And I'm talking to guys every day who are becoming a little bit more prepared to be open. And I love to see it. So
that's like the biggest mystery to me, because me and my girlfriends, honey, we sit around and we talk. We have, I think right now the dating pool for girls like us is pretty smaller than the other, I guess, an alternative. And we all know each other's partners and, you know, maybe have dated them. And we all talk. And I wonder if like guys are sitting around talking about trans women that they've like either hooked up with or that they are dating or whatever. And so like what have some of those conversations been like?
Of course, especially in a community space, the guys are going to talk like anybody talks. Like you said, girls talk, guys talk. But in the spaces that I cultivate, at least, or the spaces that I find myself mostly a part of, it's not any kind of locker room kind of conversation as much. Actually, that's pretty much sort of shunned. It's more of like on the level conversation. So if somebody is dating somebody, they can talk about things that are going on with them or different like issues that they might have, like, or something that their family might have said, or just different things that are happening with them in their relationship. And of course, everybody in the group will know who that person is dating or who that person, some of the guys are married to. So, of course the conversations happen, but, there are some groups out there that are a little bit more, chaser like, where it's just kind of nasty talk. And I'm not really too much a part of those kinds of conversations. And I think that a lot of guys that are going to be out and like all the girls might know are more so sort of DL. They're not really trying to come to the light. And a lot of the guys that I attract to the conversation are guys that are interested in being more open as opposed to just kind of, being trade that goes and meets with a bunch of different people. So, the conversations that I'm a part of are pretty educational, or they're pretty on the level. So
I respect that.
Unless you wanted to hear another answer, I can tell you like what.
No. That's definitely the preferable answer. But hopefully obviously it's the truth. And I know that there's folks that guys that probably certainly think about us and treat us in a really fetishy way. Levi and I were talking about that earlier.
Absolutely.
But
it's so funny the contrast, like Lex is talking about. I have two sides of my life: the industry side, and then I have my vanilla, very like civilian, button down, like small town life. And we have such a finite amount of LGBT community here in Reno, where I'm from. It's growing, but it's still like much smaller than the places that I've seen or been to or traveled to, LA, San Francisco. And so those conversations don't really exist here because there's no dating pool. If I am going to go out or date or hang out with one of the trans girls that I'm friends with or see, I have to go to Sacramento or San Francisco. So there's not a huge opportunity here outside of people talking to me about my work for me to bring them into that. So then that's how like you have to kind of tiptoe around whether or not like, are they fetishizing or are they really curious? Like, is this an emotional thing or is it just like they don't really understand that sexuality is super fluid, so they're trying to feel out what I'm going to say to them and kind of get pervy about it. So and then there's the industry side where it's like all the dudes date all the models and the girls, and like everyone's very like intertwined but respectful, and like it's like kind of a dream scenario on that side with the part of the community that I've hung out with, because it's just everybody dates everybody if they want to, and everybody talks about everybody with respect. And I think that there's a lot, ironically, that society could learn in the ways of how to treat other people just from some of the like niche communities in the adult industry. Just some of the hospitality and the respect and the understanding of sexuality and gender and the activism. I wish I could see more of that in my everyday.
We have a comment from Blue Zephyr 2000 wondering why we also don't mention trans women in the context of dating cis queer women or a non-binary person. And I don't think there's that many conversations. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a great question. I think a lot of folks just aren't to the point yet where they're even able to allowing themselves to imagine trans people in general in any other context other than, something more negative. Obviously, trans people are hetero, they are gay, they are bi, they are non-binary, they are pansexual, they are every identity that you can think of a trans person can be. The reason why this conversation is so closely centered on sort of heteronormative relationships is because that's how I identify. That's my experience, and then also the rate of violence that's happening. It seems to primarily be at the hands of cisgender heterosexual identified men. So those are what we would call heteronormative relationships. I'm not saying that other people aren't fighting and having trouble, but it seems, in my opinion, that's a very important area that I like to focus my concern on, and I know I have experience with it, and so I hope that someone who is non-binary or any other identity doesn't. Hope that you don't feel left out of the conversation, but that's my experience. Okay, well, if you want to hear more about it, you can follow. I will be on social media talking to all of these folks and more about all of this the entire year. This album is going to be released in 3 parts over the course of a whole year. And so this is the part 1. And it's available right now, obviously. And you can see more of Levi and I in my short film, A Girl Like Me, Letters to My Lovers, and the next music video that's going to come out. He's my co-star, and hopefully I can convince him to be the co-star for the next album, which is we're shooting in the new year.
No, I'm already on board. I love you.
And Lex Newman, you can find. I'm going to post. I'll be posting about him for the rest of the day on socials, and so you can find him on there. And yeah, I'm going to post everyone's socials. I think everyone doesn't have social on here right now. Okay, yeah. Levi's on hiatus, and Lex. I'll post his socials, but it's It's the Lex Newman, I think. Am I right? Oh, you're muted.
Just Lex Newman. But,
it's
yeah.
Lex Newman. Okay, Lex Newman, Numan, on his socials, and so you can see more. Please follow and engage in the conversation. If you're curious at all about how to spark this conversation or engage it, Lex has some of the best tools, approaches to having these conversations that I've seen on the entire internet. And so, yeah, I'm going to toss it back to our fabulous hostess with the mostest, Nina. Hello, Nina. Oh, Nina, you're muted.
Hello. This has been such a wonderful and fantastic conversation. And again, on behalf of Peppermint, we say thank you to Lex Newman and Levi Smith for being here and sharing your stories and your insight with us and being a part of this really beautiful release. And again, we are celebrating Peppermint and this incredible release that is A Girl Like Me, Letters to My Lovers. It's available now. You can stream it now. We encourage you then to also click the link in her bio on her Instagram page and hopefully in the chat. Pre-order that vinyl. It's going to be gorgeous and white and beautiful, and she's so excited about it. We're very excited about it. Get your vinyl right now. And we want to thank you for joining us and watching. And hopefully you all enjoyed the show. And if you like the music, again, download it, stream it, listen to it, share it, and talk about it on social media. This conversation is continuing with Peppermint, and it continues with you. So don't forget to pre-order the limited edition, vinyl edition as well. And it's all available at Peppermint Store. Get some wonderful merch while you're there as well. We want to thank, of course, Mitch, and we want to thank Rafe and PEG Records and PEG Management. And most importantly, we celebrate and thank Peppermint for her fierce and fearless voice and releasing this incredible album Check on her socials constantly for more fun, more updates, and more important stories and songs that help continue to amplify and raise up Black trans voices. Thank you for joining us. I'm Nina West. Have a wonderful day.